Hot stove conversations about baseball, history, football, and current events that may leave you saying there's more to consider. Now here's your host, Jack Moore.
Welcome back to More to Consider. I'm here with Charles. Charles, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing okay.
All right, so what we're going to cover tonight, or in this particular episode, is our reactions to the reaction. So we did a show, and it's just been, I guess, maybe a week ago on the
Less than a
Kimmel
week.
situation.
Yeah.
Less than a week. I'm trying to think
Yeah,
about
been about a week.
Yeah, well, Charlie Kirk was shot on September 10, so it was in that time frame afterwards that Kimmel made certain remarks which drew ire from some people, and it did apparently make certain markets where his show was on local affiliates speak out. And there was an undercurrent also of maybe some of his numbers as it related to his show's success, and that came into question.
Right.
But there was the chairman of the FCC that made comments relative to ABC, you take care of it or actually Disney, you take care of it or we will. So I don't know
what for saying that.
Yeah.
It was an idiot for saying that.
Yeah, and I'm going to do a little cheat here, because I told you this. I watched Dave Smith today, or listened to Dave Smith and Robbie Bernstein talking about this very issue. And, as always, Dave Smith had some really good takes on it, but I had seen some of the clips of what he said. And one of the takes is, I don't think it was as much an apology by Jimmy Kimmel as it was he was apologizing for you not understanding that what he said wasn't offensive. I mean, it was that kind of take.
Right.
Yeah. So, just kind of a general background here. Jimmy Kimmel returned to air on, it's saying September 23. Gosh, does it mean that many days ago already? I guess it was. After a week-long suspension. So, yeah. Now, I would say, and were you not also under the impression, they said indefinite, which carries with it the possibility
right.
back in, yeah.
I don't remember the whole suspension thing, man. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Say anything about a suspension?
No, I'll be honest with you, but I thought it felt like a firing. At least that's how people were reacting to it. But I think in fairness, so if I said, hey, Charles, you have an indefinite suspension, you could be back in 5 minutes. It's indefinite.
Yeah.
Now, if I said you have a 6 months definite suspension, you're out for 6 months. I could change my mind. But if I tell you, hey, you have an indefinite suspension. Hey, Charles, 5 minutes to pick. Come on back. Okay. I've lifted the suspension.
What gets you to think, then why did Disney even say what they said if it was just going to be essentially a slap on his hand?
Because
that's really what happened.
They
gave him a slap on the hand.
Okay. All right. We're in that room. We're Disney execs. We're having this conversation. Do we smoke cigars? I guess we do, and I go, Charles, oh God,
yes.
Man, we got a shit burger on this one. Everybody's got to take a bite. What you got here? And you're like, hey, you know what? Why don't we come out and say indefinite suspension? We got the heat from the FCC guy. We got the heat coming and all the rest. Let's give him one of those indefinite suspensions. If Hollywood and everyone come to his aid and start making him a Paul Revere figure, like, he's riding a horse, crying out as he carries the lantern. Did Paul Revere have? I know that they had. The lantern was in the tower. But anyway, we got one of the most heroic figures in American history, and Jimmy Kimmel fighting for First Amendment rights and the rest. That's how he started to get painted. So if I went out in our little discussion in the boardroom on indefinite suspension, we leave ourselves a lane to like, hey. And if we get enough backlash in our favor, we put his ass right back on the air. Don't say, this is what I was saying.
Yeah, we're losing all the advertising.
Were we?
We're losing all the advertising. Yeah, I mean, the time that we don't have him on, we're losing advertising
because he's off the air. We're losing advertising because he's on the air.
Yeah.
You're saying, I don't get it. Which one?
But our friends at the parties are going to be very, very upset if we keep them off the air. So, we have to be beholden to them. So let's just not keep them. Let's just say indefinite suspension, but really, it's only going to be a few days. We just won't tell anybody. It'll all blow
look, and that's
and
the thing.
we'll actually get some credit for it.
Yeah, we're not the guys in the boardroom now because we didn't do a very good job, I guess, of being those guys. But all right, but here's what I'm saying.
Okay.
This is exactly like we did it. One of our last shows, I talked about I was on that show. The FCC guy, don't say what doesn't need to be said, or like an example I said where my dad had that sheriff that if he just fired the guys without telling them that they were being fired for a reason. If you're an at-will contract, you walk through the door. Hey, Charles, get out. You're done. I'm sorry. Why? I don't have to tell you why, but I want to know why. You don't have to know. You may be in a situation where it's an at-will contract. I give you a grievance by telling you why, and now you fight the grievance. So it's the same kind of thing. If Disney, ABC, any subsidiary thereof, if they were in the room, they probably did have somebody smart enough to say, like, hey, if we suspend him indefinitely, and the flow goes against Trump and the FCC or whatever, and we spin it or we have a good feeling that our types will spin it, that Kimmel is a martyred figure now. Kimmel's that guy. We'll put his ass right back on the air. And then the guy could see in the row, whoa, what if it goes south? Then it goes south. We keep him off the air. But it gives us the
Yeah, I get it.
So what we don't do is come out and say, he gets a suspension of 173 and a half days. I mean, why say it? That's a beautiful move. I don't know. Again, was it the parent company, Disney, whatever? Whoever made that move to say indefinite, great job. But I think everybody kind of absorbed the story as, man, he lost his job. He's out. But they did say indefinite. They did.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that what you just said, most people did take it as him being fired.
Yeah.
They did. And that's probably because they didn't hear exactly what Disney had said.
Probably.
Disney didn't say he was fired. Disney said he was indefinitely suspended. So that's honestly, that's on us as the American people not listening to exactly what Disney said and just thinking that he's going to be fired.
So the article goes on to say, he delivered an emotional monologue that defended free speech and addressed the controversy surrounding his comments about the shooting of Charlie Kirk. His return episode garnered, I said that part. Jimmy Kimmel was suspended from late night show Jimmy Kimmel Live for a week due to comments he made regarding the shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. His remarks led to significant backlash, particularly from conservative groups, prompting ABC to pull the show from the air on September 17th. So that was 1 week after the shooting. This decision was influenced by local TV station operators Nexstar Media and Sinclair Broadcast Group, who refused to air the show. Public and industry response. Kimmel's suspension sparked a public outcry, with over 400 entertainers, including notable figures like Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, signing an open letter from the ACLU demanding his reinstatement. Following this pressure, the ABC announced Kimmel's return on September 23. The monologue and reactions. Upon his return, Kimmel delivered a heartfelt. Now, heartfelt is sort of a subjective view of.
Yes.
I mean, there was some tears and stuff like that. Kimmel delivered a heartfelt monologue defending free speech and addressing the controversy. And again, from what you said last week about the FCC chairman's kind of screw up on this by making himself an issue with his comments, Kimmel won in every way here. It's a huge victory, I think. He got some shitty comments in against MAGA, Kirk follows, etc. Gets to come back, do a tearful, I don't know why anybody would have thought I meant anything other than love for his family. Okay, all right, so he got that in. Then he gets to shit all over Trump and the administration with, and you guys thought that you were going to shut me down in a free country. Now he is waving flags and talking all the First Amendment stuff. Hey, all that was given to him.
Yeah, it was.
By that comment.
All by the FCC commissioner.
Yeah. Yes. Making that comment, yes. Kimmel delivered a heartfelt monologue.
If he didn't make that comment, this would be much different.
I think, yeah. Absolutely.
I think Kimmel will still be at home if the guy didn't make that comment.
Yeah. I mean, there's more of a possibility, but
the reason that if he hadn't made that comment, then Kimmel wouldn't be able to run around waving the Constitution.
No, that's true. Here further it says, he expressed that it was never his intention to make light of Kirk's murder and acknowledged the emotional weight of the situation. Kimmel criticized the FCC chairman's comments as attempts at censorship and thanked supporters from both sides of the political spectrum. If one were to say, again, it's all subjective, but if one were to say somewhat objectively, was that comment seen fairly as an attempt at censorship? Yeah. If you make a comment that sounds anything like, you take care of it, or I'll take care of it, if I take care of it through the power of government, you just made a First Amendment threat, a threat of First Amendment violation. Ratings,
he should have kept his mouth closed.
No doubt. And I don't know, again, I've said this before, I don't know where these people come off thinking they can talk that way and not have a repercussion. Even if, and it's a political repercussion. Go ahead.
How about this? Why don't these people just read the Constitution before they open their mouths? I mean, really.
Oh, Charles, brother. I have made this comment for centuries. Did I say that? Okay. But I've been making this comment for quite some time. I believe that 99.37% of our members of Congress. Okay, there's a sliding scale here, maybe an inverse relationship of how little they know about the Constitution versus how little they care. And they tend to only speak. That wouldn't be inverse, because both are at the very top. Yeah, okay, I correct myself. They don't care and they don't know. They don't know and they don't care. That's a better way of putting it. So that being said, if you have people that are putting their hands upon sacred books of religion and swearing or affirming their oath to defend said Constitution, and they don't give two shits what's in it, and they don't care, or a combination of the two, then all of this appeal to it, or you're questioning why don't they know what's in it, it's all a game. It really doesn't matter.
Yes. It doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter.
Which is terrible.
It's terrible. But Walter Williams, the late great Walter Williams, who I loved. I saw him at Old Dominion once speak. And, he was a man of the street. He was in the military, and then he drove a cab for a long. He would tell those stories, and then goes on to get a PhD in economics. He's a pretty bright guy. I love that guy. But anyway, I saw him at Old Dominion University, and he was making this point about the Constitution and how people tend to see what they want to see. And he said, imagine you're playing poker. You're playing poker. You're playing for money. You're throwing money on the table. It doesn't have to be the most high stakes game. But what if somebody kept saying, oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't tell you that. In this hand, a pair beats three of a kind. And you'd be like, no, since time, no, in this, or you're constantly spinning the rules or disregarding them. So if you were in a card game and the hands kept changing in order, rank of order of it, you wouldn't like that situation. Or if somebody just clearly didn't follow the rules at all, or they dealt from the bottom of the deck, or they nudged their friend and go, throw me the card I need, look through the deck and find me, all of those are extremes, but he goes, you wouldn't play in that card game. And yet you vote for people who totally disregard all of the rules and the expectation of rules, and you let them steal from you, and, in a sense. So we have organized theft. And I know that's going to sound crazy. It's hyperbole to some, but think about it. If you got a bunch of people that are not following the Constitution and making fortunes or funding fortunes for others that they get kicked, I mean, it's all criminal.
I I believe that the people at ABC know that the vast majority of the Americans are apathetic when it comes to the actual function of government. And with the FCC commissioner saying what he said, he opened the door for ABC to point to the government and say that it's the government that's doing this, when technically it was them that was doing it. They were the ones that censored Jimmy Kimmel. They were the ones that said he could. Well, no, because they technically
how did they censor?
They did.
How did they censor?
Because they can. Because the government can't do it. No. This is how they can. Because they actually have the right and authority to censor their employees for what they say. They can do that. The government can't. But most people don't understand that there's a difference between the two. So that ABC can go and say, and not just
we covered that
Jimmy
on the
Kimmel,
last show, right? No, but what I'm
not
asking,
just through Jimmy Kimmel, but through their news organizations, through the View, and all those other people that will say that, see, Trump was the one that's censoring Jimmy Kimmel. Would technically, no, it's their employer that decided to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air, not the Trump organization. But again, I go back to the FCC commissioner. That dude really, really stuck his foot in his mouth, because had he not said what he said, this would be going completely different, in a completely different direction. He gave them an out. Yes.
Censorship. I just want to see what kind of a working definition is.
Okay.
Censorship definition. What is censorship? The changing or suppression or prohibition of speech. So if we're saying, so this is why I don't think he was being censored. I don't think he was being censored because he wasn't being told he couldn't say something, etc. Now, if one were to go to the extreme of saying, or not the extreme, but go to the next logical step, it is a logical step. If it take you off the air, one could say that I am censoring that person, but it's really not censoring. It's punishment for past speech. Now, if you want to then go say, now you are prohibiting further speech, I get it. But it doesn't keep Jimmy Kimmel from not saying things. It just keeps him from saying them for those people. But
correct.
Where the big distinction is, if ABC said, you have said things to upset a good portion of the audience, whatever, or you've said something off color, something we don't like, they're not stopping him from saying it at the time. So I think a truer form of censorship was there's a script or there's a bunch of cards set up that night for his monologue, and somebody comes along, the ABC censors, and that's what they would call them. The ABC, whoa, you're not going to say that tonight. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, no, you're not. No, you're not. We're not going to allow you to say that. I think that would be a form of censorship. He got to say what he wanted to, and then the penalty argument would be, and he was penalized. Now, that does stop him from saying things further on the show. So censorship is a changing or suppression or prohibition of speech or writing that is deemed subversive for the common good. It occurs in all manifestations of authority to some degree, but in modern times, it's been of special importance in its relation to government and the rule of law. Concerns relevant to. Censorship as a term in English goes back to the office of censor established in Rome. That officer was who conducted the census, regulated the morals of the citizens, counted and classified. All right, go ahead.
Didn't you say prohibited?
Yes.
They prohibited him from saying it again. They censored him.
See, I still, in my mind, I don't see it as censored.
But in the definition, you say prohibited.
But they didn't tell him what he couldn't say.
They did by not letting him. Yeah.
Well, that could be said, but all right. Would it? I know I'm just nitpicking here, but would it be fair to say? Would it be fair to say, if they didn't take him off the air, he could have come back and theoretically never said another offensive thing?
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to me,
after
a prohibition.
They told him,
to me, a prohibition, it would have been for them to say, Jimmy, you're back. But if you say A, B, C, D, you're fired. That's a prohibition of speech. No one ever told him what he could say or not say. But I could understand the argument that suspending him for things he said is a form of censorship, although I don't think it really is, because I think censorship is the stopping of the thing being said. They never told him what he could say or not say. They penalized him for what he said. I'll grant you that. But if you're saying then a suspension from being on the air is a form of stopping him from speaking, yeah, I guess that's fair. But you're still not saying what he can't say. They're saying there was a penalty to what he said.
But
once the government guy, once the FCC guy, now where I do think there is the fair argument for censorship, and the reason I'm not saying it so much for Disney, but I'm saying it for a government official, is if the guy truly said, yeah, I told Disney, you handle it or I'm going to handle it. Well, that implies there's going to be a penalty to you, I that regulate on behalf of the federal government. There's going to be a problem for you guys if you don't take care of this.
That
could be, yeah. I think
a violation of the First Amendment.
Yes, I think it is. Although, I mean, the argument could continue to go. Well, it was another interesting point off of this point that Dave Smith made today, and it really made me think about. He got into the issue of there's a tendency towards people. We talked about this on one of our last episodes. I think that the tendency towards people that are on the left or then the Hollywood elite types. They think everybody thinks that way, and they have no idea what the guy in rural Arkansas thinks at all. But the rural Arkansas guy sees Hollywood and sees all the network TV. He knows what the left thinks. They don't know what they think. But he brought up another interesting point. Tucker Carlson got what? Not only at Fox, but that was his last firing. I was going to say, he got what? He got fired, right?
Yes.
What's happened since?
He's bigger than ever.
Right. And then he said, on the same day, Don Lemon got fired. And what's happened since?
Pretty much, he's barely out there.
Showing up sporadically on people's feeds like YouTube spots. Yes. Usually not getting the plot. Like totally missing what's... Okay.
Well,
Chris Cuomo.
Well, he's
still alive.
Nation.
He's still alive, right, but not nearly as big as Tucker Carlson. So what was the point that Dave Smith was making?
That the independent guys who actually have all the flexibility and they don't have the people standing over them can actually flourish. They can.
Right, and it's also a measurement in a free market of the goods. So he said if Jimmy Kimmel really had the goods and he just got blown out by ABC or Disney, if this had happened, then if he wasn't in the controlled apparatus he had been a part of, he would go out and be Tucker Carlson. But he can't because he is a part of that apparatus that only survives to feed itself. Go.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And speaking of Tucker Carlson, did you ever hear what Jimmy Kimmel said about Tucker when he got fired?
No, I saw it in one of those montages which I've totally forgotten, but it was definitely a shot at, he deserves this and he's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but then the people on the left are whining and complaining when Jimmy Kimmel, what some of us thought it was being fired, got fired. And they're like, oh, this is the worst thing in the world. I can't believe they're doing this. They didn't say that about Tucker. They don't ever say it about anybody on the right. They don't. It's only their people.
I also said, I don't know if it was in this episode or another one recently, but I'm certainly, God, and when I say this, I know how apologetic or something it seems, but I'm not a Republican. I'm certainly not a Democrat. And I'm little L libertarian, classical liberal, whatever you want to call it. I think government tends to, by its very nature, skew criminal. I just think it does. I think it's collective force that is very mob-like, or what one thinks about in the movies is like the mob. That's how government goes. It goes out, it gets tribute. Okay, I'm saying that to say this. That being said, how batshit crazy the differences is in the hypocrisy is overwhelming. I have watched all of these montages of Jimmy Kimmel and others. Yeah, Trump got what he deserved. Ha, ha, ha. All these people that were taken off of every media platform and they were cheering it on, only to find that the most tragic event in American history is Kimmel getting the suspension. Go.
Yes, I agree. I've lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. But I just wanted to make that point. Yeah, I just wanted to make that point that it kind of goes back to another show I was doing recently with you too, where I'm like, if you and I were high school teachers and the kids in the hallway were acting as national figures acted, we would be screaming at them to grow up. We would expect it maybe from high schoolers to some degree. These are people of immense wealth, went to all the right schools generally that are in. I mean, I know you must do this too. Do you ever look at the country we live in and the people that make up the most known figures and not think, how do we end up like this?
Yes. Yeah.
Like I've had guys come by and repair like the plumbing. They're competent. They come through the door. They know what they're doing. They're plumbers, you know, and you're like, God bless those kind of people that work with their hands. They get under the sink and they take care of things. I'm like, I'd want that guy to be in public office, right? He showed up on time and did what he's supposed to do. So why do we get the person who's crazy, who's out there saying crazy things, serving in Congress? How did that guy, why isn't the plumber in the House of Representatives? The plumber that came by and did great work. Go, talk to me. What you were going to say?
Well, because he's competent, and he has. He
would never want to be. Yeah.
I think the people who are in Congress, if you really think about it, what have they actually accomplished other than winning an election?
Well, they tend to be actors. No, but they tend to be.
I understand, but what have they accomplished? What can they say, I did this, other than win an election?
They won over
nothing.
The support. No, they won over the support of somebody that propped them up and put them in this position.
Understood, but still. But what have they done?
They won the support of somebody that's propped them up and put them in that position. That's what they've done.
Yeah, that's
you may say you may give that little value, but it's something.
Yeah, that's all they've actually done. Unfortunately, the plumber can't survive that way, because if he comes to your house and you pay him money and then you come home and the house is flooded, he didn't accomplish anything. But that's what the politicians do. They come to your house, you pay them, and stuff's still messed up because there's no accountability. They don't have to perform. It's not really in the job description.
True, but I'm more and more convinced, like, and I saw it a little bit when I was practicing law. You know, I kind of dabbled in local politics and state politics in the sense that I was around people in it. And I'll give you an example of how some level of politics works. I won't name the city. It was a city in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I had a buddy of mine, and he got approached by a sheriff. He gets approached by a sheriff. He's of a particular party. And there is a Commonwealth's attorney of the same party as the sheriff, right? No, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Messed up the whole story. I'm sorry. The sheriff and the Commonwealth's attorney are of opposite parties, D and an R, right? Okay. One's an R, the other's a D. So D comes to my friend and says, hey, we want you to run for Commonwealth's attorney, because he's an attorney. And he goes, you know, I'm part of the D party. We want you to run as a D against the R, right? And he's like, okay. He comes to the first night of debate, and the sheriff is on the side of the Republican Commonwealth's attorney, which becomes as a big shock to the guy that was begged to run. Like, he turns all the troops against the friend of mine.
Oh, wow.
And he goes to him. Oh, yeah. And he goes to the sheriff. Now, this is local politics in a particular city. He goes, hey, dude, I thought you were a Democrat. He goes, no. That guy, he's my best friend. He's one of my best friends. We fished together. Like, no. We're going to kick your ass. You're going to lose. We just needed some guy to send to slaughter. So we recruited you to be the guy to get his ass kicked by the sitting Commonwealth attorney that we all love. And he goes, wait a minute. You're a I'm a registered. What the hell difference does it make? You know, we all know who's what in this particular county and or city. But no, it's a true story. My friend was like, I get approached to be the guy to run against the established guy. They cut my, you know, they stabbed me in the back and then go, you didn't really think we wanted you to win. Like,
wow.
You didn't think. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Now, I tell a story like that just to illustrate he got selected to run, but that was to serve the purposes of someone for the other guy to defeat. That's all it was. And okay, fine. Does it happen at the state level? Yeah, I think sometimes at the state level, well, I know this from judges. I know this from in Virginia, the General Assembly chooses judges. Oh, there's giveaways all the time. Like I've said this, it's sour grapes. I mean, some will probably go like, yeah, you're a terrible lawyer and you're just telling stories to make yourself feel better. Fair enough. But there were times I was in court and I would see, well, I defended you. No, I would see, you remember our story, right?
Yeah.
I would see, that was pretty good lawyer work, right?
Yes.
I would see, though, somebody in court tripping over their briefcase. You know, different color socks. They had a blue sock and a brown sock, you know, shoes weren't, I'm that guy. And then a couple of days later, they're on the bench. They're a judge. So I had this friend of mine that was very connected in the particular city I'm in. And I would say, you got the look, but the story's going to finish up for you really nice. I went to this friend of mine that knew everything about everything. And I said, man, do you know Joey so-and-so? Yeah. You know the story, right? He goes, yeah, he went to private school X and his grandfather was a judge and his great-grandfather was that.
Really?
And you know who his best friend is? Yeah, Timmy, member of the House of Delegates. Like, I swear to you. So, like, I would be shocked. I'm like, is it just me? Or is that the dumbest bastard I've ever seen last week in court? And now he's a judge? And he'd go, oh, yeah. You don't know the connection? And it was law school connections, private school connections, friends with so-and-so, lived in the same neighborhood. It was all the same people.
It's who he knew.
It's not only who he knew, it's almost deeper as it's who he was. It was a fact that he ran in the circle. Right. So again, anyone listening could go, yeah, well, you were a crummy attorney. That's why you were never, whatever. That's fine. I'm just saying there were some people that were shocking to me. Now, you think it's any different at statewide politics?
Of course it's
any different? Yeah, exactly.
It's the same. It's the same, just on a bigger stage. It's the same.
Yeah. And now you do get a Thomas Massey. You know, there's lightning strikes where he's an MIT graduate living off he lives in complete nature of his own creation, like off the grid, right? I mean, he's got the whole,
right.
Yeah. You know, he's an incredibly smart guy that's totally self-sufficient. And from what I understand, he's pretty independently wealthy by his own, legitimate means.
Right.
That's one at a 435. Now that's the question you have to ask yourself is, why are there not more Thomas Masseys? Honest to God, like, why are there not more? Why were there never more Ron Pauls? Because the nature of what the work is doesn't attract those people generally.
Right. That is true.
Or they're unelectable.
It's just awfully difficult for somebody to run nowadays and not say that I'm going to give you everything.
True.
Yeah.
True.
But it is what it is.
All right. To close the loop on this session of More to Consider with Chuck, the ongoing controversy. The situation remains contentious, with Kimmel continuing to address criticisms, including those from President Donald Trump, who expressed disbelief over his reinstatement. Kimmel, with humor, responded to Trump's comments, highlighting the ongoing political tension surrounding his show. All right. We continue on this theme, and this to me is not like entertaining at all. I'm worried about the country more from a standpoint of sanity. Like, I want to believe that, and I used to believe that there was a certain level of the vast majority of people think like this. They, and I think that was illustrated in reactions to Kirk's death. And that's not the only thing I've seen, but to see people in an environment that had the mindset, no, you know what I want to do? No, this is what I want to do. I want to do the very thing we're doing, get behind a microphone and mock the death of a guy that got shot and killed, that went on a college camp. That, to see that and to know that that was happening is then starting to make me believe like this is demonic stuff or something's going on that's at a far greater level than we're really talking about. and then it's all the whatism. Well, what about the person that got killed by, it was also, a leftist, or, it's all of these reactions are outside of human dignity, or what we once may have considered to be norms of behavior response.
It is okay to demean, torture, and even after they're dead, desecrate the graves of your enemies, especially if you think that they're evil. And that's what they do. They don't have everything that's done to people who are on the opposite side of them is justified in their eyes. And they don't have to try to understand.
Well, all right, I'm going a little bit different place here. I mean, I'm going to a little bit, I guess, a different little bit level of analysis. And once again, the guy to listen to that I think provides the most wisdom and entertainment is Adam Carolla. Carolla got asked about it on his show, and he goes, he's like, well, I had this guy that was a neighborhood guy. He was the pain in the ass guy. He turned me into the city, and the city came out with an inspector because it said I had a place that was unsanitary or something. Like, so he's got a specter coming. Like, so he goes, the guy's a pain in the ass. And he goes, I'm going to tell you, the old man died. I didn't shed a tear. I really didn't care that he died. So I can understand people that didn't like Kirk and didn't like his message. And they could be in their hearts not upset that he's dead. But what I don't see is going online and saying, let me express, or let me go out into a public forum and express with dancing and, fireworks and that type of dancing around and making an ass of yourself and saying, I celebrate the death. He goes, I wasn't a fan of him. I'm not mourning his death, but to go to the next step, he said, is awkward to me. And really starting to look like religious, like rituals of demonic worship.
That's my whole point.
That is, because we have to be fair. There's been a lot of political figures that upon their death, we probably haven't, through our history, haven't thought like, yeah, I really like that guy. It's another death in a long line of political figures. Now, I mean, in kind of, the most recent memory, I lived in the 70s. I lived that 77 to 81 time frame. I wasn't a big fan of Jimmy Carter. Never disliked Jimmy Carter. Thought that Jimmy Carter building homes, Habitat for Humanity, was a very noble thing. I mean, but when he died last year, it wasn't like but again, the guy lived to 100. So, I mean, I had plenty of time to prepare for his death in the time frame. I was a teenager and then he was president. Never a fan of him. But, when he dies at 100, no one thought, damn, Jimmy died. Like, what a life cut short. No, he lived to 100. So now, do I think that there was anyone in America that was really shattered by his death politically? No, because most people weren't old enough to be around to even remember him being president. We're in a demographic now where half the country over half the country wasn't even born in 1981. Probably 2/3 of the country, right? So we have those kind of situations. Now, I've heard the stories, and most of them were dispelled, that there were kids in schools that cheered when Kennedy was shot, JFK. And then I've heard stories like, nah, that never really happened. Could I have imagined pockets of the South celebrating his death? Yeah, I think that probably could have been pockets. But would the 1963 14-year-old freshman at fill-in-the-blank school celebrate openly in the school? I don't think. No. I think that was a decorum issue more. But there was probably a lot of kids in certain pockets of the country whose parents they know would not have mourned his death. It's just a political figure that was disliked. So I think that's where things have changed. That's where things have changed is what we just witnessed is pretty scary. But I think it's just illustrating. And where it goes from here, we don't know. We don't know. Because every time we talk, we kind of talk about like, well, there might be getting a little bit better here, a little bit better there, but I don't know. So what do you want to say on the way out here about everything we just talked about?
Really, what you just said last, could you come up with a better reason for that asteroid now? No, I'm just joking. Hey, I don't know what's going to happen,
Are
man.
you praying for the asteroid, or you're only calling for the asteroid, or you're commentating in regard to your knowledge of said asteroid?
It is more so of a cleansing tool, because I do believe that we probably need about a year with no power. About a year. Yeah, with no power. Because a lot of this made up, issues and concerns and would completely disappear. That's just me. I think us Americans, when you travel outside the United States, you realize that us Americans manufacture issues because we really don't have any problems here. Yeah.
I don't want to discount the fact that people don't have tough lives, but I do think, and I think it was Megyn Kelly I was watching today, and she said, and I think it's kind of where you were going, we have to address the fact that we have a ton of people. We have a large number of people who are shut in, who are on the internet constantly, who are in the dark areas, probably the internet, and they're mingling with people with dark thoughts, etc. I think that is a thing.
Right.
So when we go back 40 years ago and I go like, hey, wasn't it great in the 80s when none of this existed? We had a VHS.
Right.
I mean, we could record things, and we had cable TV and MTV with music and all. I mean, we had what we had. And I saw somebody post something the other day, kind of that same nostalgic thing, like, man, the 80s were really cool. It was like a film of going to the mall or something. Somebody filmed in 1986. Then I saw somebody post the other day, high school class in 1986. And man, that was an eye-opener. All the kids were very respectful. They loved the teacher. Teacher had complete control of the class. I'm not saying in 86 you couldn't have found a class out of control, but all these people putting in the comments like, man, can you remember when it was like that? Do you remember this? Do you remember that? And yeah, it was a different time. But again, it's selectively that school, predicts that. All right.
Right. Okay.
That's it. Cool. Nothing else for the fans there?
No, I'm good, man.
Subscribe
and comment. I'm sorry, that's my fault. Yes, please, more of that. We love for you. We love to hear from you.
You want to hear the comments? I'm scared of the comments. Very good.
Yes, it's
good
okay
night,
sometimes.
Good night, Charles.
All right, man, take it easy.
Thanks, brother.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like the show, subscribe and hit your notification button to get an update when we post another episode. See you soon.